This learning module will provide information regarding the following topics: the National Flood Insurance Program and some of the requirements, information regarding flood insurance rate maps, special flood hazard areas, letters of map change, letters of map amendment, letters of map revision, and conditional letters of map revision. The flood insurance rate map depicts the areas of a community that are subject to flooding and the associated risks. As part of the National Flood Insurance Program, FEMA identifies flood hazard areas throughout the United States and its territories. These areas are generally identified on flood insurance rate maps, or FIRMs. This is a high-risk area defined as any land that would be inundated by a flood having a 1% chance of occurring in a given year. Development may take place within the special flood hazard area. However, development must comply with specific requirements. Due to limitation of scale and available data, FEMA has developed administrative procedures referred to as letters of map change to allow property owners who are depicted in the special flood hazard area to have the mandatory flood insurance requirement removed. There are two categories on letters of map change. A letter of map amendment is typically for a single lot or structure or contiguous lots in small areas of natural high ground that create islands within the special flood hazard boundary. A letter of map revision is a change in the FEMA flood map due to new or more detailed data that can change the floodplain boundary. The letter of map amendment is an administrative procedure developed by FEMA to change the designation of properties that are inadvertently shown on FIRMs as in the special flood hazard area when the property is on natural ground that is at or above the 1% annual chance flood elevation. There's more than one type of letter of map amendment. LOMR requests involving one or more structures where the lowest adjacent grade must be at or above the base flood elevation. On LOMR requests involving one or more lots, the lowest point on the lot must be at or above the BFE. The requester is required to provide all of the information needed for FEMA to review the request. Elevation information certified by a licensed land surveyor or registered professional engineer, and a form including the MTEZ or MT1. There are four types of letters of map revision: the letter of map revision based on fill, a conditional letter of map revision, and a conditional letter of map revision based on fill. A standard letter of map revision is a request to revise the floodplain due to new data reflecting physical changes to the floodplain. Letters of map revision are generally based on the implementation of physical measures that affect the hydrologic or hydraulic characteristics of a flooding source and thus result in the modification of the existing regulatory floodway, the effective base flood elevations, or the special flood hazard area. As watershed dynamics change, new detailed engineering studies can be performed to update the floodplain reflected on the FIRM. Development, addition to impervious areas, upgrades in infrastructure such as new bridges, culverts, dams, retention basins, and levees can all change the floodplain and may require a letter of map revision. A letter of map revision is generally accompanied by an annotated copy of the affected portions of the flood insurance rate map and/or flood insurance study report. A fee may not be charged for the review and processing of LOMR requests if it involves analysis of new or more detailed data. The letter of map revision based on fill request is similar to a letter of map amendment, but involves structures or lots raised above the base flood by the placement of fill. Fill is defined as material from any source placed to raise the ground, natural grade, to or above the base flood elevation. A fee is charged for the review and processing of letter of map revision based on fill requests. A conditional letter of map revision is FEMA's comment on a proposed project that would, upon construction, affect the hydrologic and hydraulic characteristics of a flooding source and thus result in the modification of the existing regulatory floodway, the effective base flood elevations, or the special flood hazard area. The letter does not revise an effective NFIP map. It indicates whether the project, if built as proposed, would be recognized by FEMA as an approved letter of map revision. FEMA charges a fee for processing a CLOMR to recover the costs associated with the review. A conditional letter of map revision based on fill, or CLOMR-F, is FEMA's indication on a proposed project that would, upon construction, raise the lots above the base flood by the placement of fill and, if built as proposed, would be recognized by FEMA. A fee is charged for the review and processing of CLOMR-F requests. If a LOMA or LOMR are issued, the federal flood insurance requirement is eliminated as a condition of federal or federally backed financing. It's important to note that the mortgage lender retains the ability to require flood insurance to provide financing, regardless of the location of the structure. The MT1 is the application and forms for conditional letters of map amendment, or CLOMAs, final letters of map amendment, or LOMAs, letters of map revision based on fill, LOMR-Fs, and conditional letters of map revision based on fill, CLOMR-Fs. The MT2 is the application form for Conditional Letters of Map Revisions, CLOMR, and Letters of Map Revision, LOMRs, for all LOMR, CLOMR, and physical map revisions. The online letter of map change is now available through FEMA. Electronic submittals for LOMCs are submitted through this website. The site also provides an overview of LOMCs in question and answer format. On December 14, 2009, FEMA published a notice in the Federal Register announcing a revised fee schedule for letters of map amendment. The guidance on this slide summarizes compliance with the Endangered Species Act for letters of map change. The purpose of the Endangered Species Act is to conserve threatened and endangered species and the ecosystems upon which they depend. For additional information, please visit FEMA's website on letters of map revision or contact the Risk Communication Specialist at the Kentucky Division of Water. This concludes our module on letters of map change.